everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, maybe good evening, depending on where you're joining from. I hope everyone is having a fabulous Wednesday today. I will share my screen for our advanced live training today. Welcome, welcome. You will see a QR code here. This is an interactive presentation. If you have joined one of our basic sessions and you know the drill with that, we do like to use Kahoot as we are doing these trainings. So please go ahead and scan that QR code with your mobile device or navigate to Kahoot.it and use the game pin to join today's live training, our Kahoot session. And while we wait for our newcomers to join the interactive Kahoot by scanning that QR code or going to Kahoot.it, I will give a couple of tips. So before you start hosting and share your game pin with your audience, you do want to make sure that your settings are set the way that you like. Once you've changed the settings, people will need to rejoin the Kahoot in order to see those updates. So again, really important just to do a quick scan through here before you actually have people log into your presentation or Kahoot. One thing that I have turned off is player identifier. While I have this turned off for today's session, it's definitely something I recommend as best practice that you have enabled, especially if looking at reporting is going to be important for your team. That player identifier will collect the email address of the player. So that way, when you're looking at the reports and scores, you know exactly who submitted what. Without that, you're relying on nicknames, like the animal nicknames that you all have today. You can disable that and let people choose their own nickname or maybe even put their own actual name. But again, you're relying on people being accurate with that information without the player identifier. So for the most accurate reporting, I do recommend best practice is to have that enabled. And then, of course, if you did want to let them choose their own nickname, you can disable this feature. But I like to have it in there just because it keeps things extra anonymous to participants, which I think makes people feel a little bit more relaxed when answering questions. And then show questions on devices. I do recommend having this turned on. It just makes for a better audience experience. This means that they're able to see the actual question and answer choices on their device or in their Kahoot window if they log in on their desktop. Otherwise, they're going to have to look back and forth between their device and the screen that the host is sharing. So highly recommend always keeping these first two on. All right, it looks like we have 3 participants in our Kahoot. I see a couple of more in the Zoom, so if you haven't had a chance yet to join our Kahoot presentation, please do so. I'm going to click this join button at the bottom left, so that QR code shows throughout these next couple of slides. If for some reason you get logged out though, and I'm not showing the QR code with the game pin here, just note that it will always show in the bar at the bottom left of the screen throughout the duration of today's presentation. Okay, so welcome again, everyone. I'm excited to guide you through today's advanced live training session. Our goal is to help you feel confident using the platform to create engaging and impactful learning experiences or even presentations. For today's live training, we'll start with case story, where you'll see how to craft interactive micro-learning experiences that captivate your audience. And then we'll explore K courses, showing you how to build structured learning journeys that drive engagement. And then after that, we'll cover groups, which make it easy to collaborate with your team, organize content, and streamline your workflow. And then last but not least, we'll dive into reports so you can track participation and measure impact effectively. Also have some cool features to show you here as well. Before we dive into content, I'm going to go over some quick introductions as well as show resources that are available to you beyond today's session. I am Tyler Shelnut. I'm your presenter for today. I'm a customer success renewal manager for our Americas team. And then we have our wonderful moderator, Andrea Galick. She is a senior customer success specialist for our Americas team. Andy will be keeping a close eye on today's chat. So if you have any questions during today's session, please feel free to drop them in the Zoom chat and she'll be happy to answer them. We highly encourage you to ask questions throughout today's session, so please do not hesitate to jump in the chat and let us know what's on your mind. She'll also be dropping helpful links throughout today's session, so I recommend checking the chat every now and then, even if you don't have any questions top of mind yet. And I know we have a couple of different ways of asking questions. We have our Kahoot Q&A, we have Zoom Q&A and Zoom chat. For the easiest method for Andy to share links, we do ask that we keep everything in the Zoom chat for today's session. And Andy, if you are ready, I'm going to let you say a quick hello to our participants. Hopefully, I can't hear you, but hopefully everyone else can. I see in the chat that she tried to say hello. I also see a question about adding additional attendees to a meeting. Please email, I believe I'm your CSM, please email me separately outside of this with that request. Okay. Yeah, I can't guarantee at the end of this I'll remember that. So yeah, always best to email me directly for that. All right, well, I see in the chat Andy tried to say hello. I'm not sure what's going on with our volume, but she is here and she is happy to answer questions that you may have. Okay, and then just a quick reminder, besides reaching out to support, we've got some great resources to help you get the answers you need. First up, we have our Kahoot Help Center, which is packed with guides and videos. Next, we have our YouTube channel, which has bite-sized tutorials, past webinars, and even surprise live sessions. So I highly recommend subscribing to the channel so you can stay in the loop. And then last but not least, we have our work channel in Kahoot. This channel has 10-minute courses designed to help you and your team get up to speed on all things Kahoot. If you haven't added this channel to your account yet, I highly recommend doing so. I'll try to remember at some point during one of our live demos to show you where this is, but you can also just search for it under Kahoot channels and add it that way. Okay, first up, we have our first poll question. Again, if you haven't joined our Kahoot, please do so. I will be asking some questions throughout today's session so you can get the most out of the product. I'm curious to know who here has attended the basic training. Oh, very quick. We're on top of things today, and I see everyone that's in the Kahoot has attended the basic training. That is great to see. If you are in here and you have not attended the basic training, no worries. We cover different things, so you'll still get a lot out of today's session. However, I do recommend joining one of our basic trainings. We host a basic training and advanced training twice a month. Okay, next question. Have you created your first Kahoot yet? And this is covered during the basic training. Basic training, we talk about creating Kahoots, our 13 different question types, AI features, Google PowerPoint sync, and then also different hosting methods. So if you're interested in that, that's covered during our basic training. Okay, good. I see we have one yes. Hopefully it went well. And a few no's, no worries. If you haven't tried yet, I do recommend just playing around with the tool. Even if it's not business related, it's still nice to familiarize yourself with some of those features. Okay, and for my participant that has used or has created a Kahoot, curious to know which tools you found useful. And if you haven't created a Kahoot yet, there's also that option here as well. This is multi-select, so you can select more than one answer. Created from scratch. Wow. Okay, that's very ambitious. I hope it went really well. It's great to hear. I do recommend checking out some of our time-saving features in the future, so you're not always creating by scratch, but definitely a great option. Okay, and if you attended the basic training, you probably know that I'm going to ask this question again at the end of our training so I can gauge how well my message was received today. For this question, I'm curious to know how confident you feel navigating reports, groups, stories, and courses, since that will be our focus for today. And I know I'm kind of flying through these questions. I want to keep us on track for today's content. It's going to be quite a bit. If you are interested in learning more about how I use these questions or different use cases, that's something I stop and talk more about during the basic training. Show answers. Average is 3, which is great for me to see because that means I have a lot of room for growth by the end of this presentation. So hopefully I'm able to raise that average from a 3 to something higher. And if not, that means I need to rework my presentation. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started now that we've covered introductions. Let's look at how today's tools can take your engagement, trainings, onboardings, and meetings to the next level. Kicking things off with case story, stories offer a fresh, engaging way to share information in an article or web page format. These micro learning experiences should take just 2 to 5 minutes for your participants, and they can be assigned or shared live. Each story is made up of blocks that include text, images, video, audio, polls, checklist, or even other embedded Kahoot activities, such as Kahoots, stories, and courses. I personally love stories because it's a fun and interactive alternative to traditional emails, especially when it comes to internal updates. Because let's be honest, our inbox can get pretty overwhelming, and this definitely makes it more bite sized and just, I feel like, a friendlier version to look at. Kahoot not only helps you cut through the noise, but it gives you the added benefit of analytics to track engagement. And case stories are also mobile friendly. I should note though, for that analytics tracking reports through stories or yeah, tracking your reporting in stories, that is available to certain plans, not all. I'll touch more on it later when we get into reports. Okay, we're gonna dive into the platform. If you attended my basic training, you already know the drill here. We're gonna be jumping in and out of this presentation quite a bit. This slide is your signal that I'm going to pause this Kahoot and jump into a new window to give you a live demo. Please do not close out of the Kahoot window, as I do have more questions sprinkled throughout today's session. You can just minimize the window for now and watch my screen through Zoom. If you accidentally close out of Kahoot, no problem at all. Just use the game pin here at the bottom left corner of the screen to rejoin when we hop back in. But I'm not even going to exit out of this. I'm just simply going to jump over to a different tab. I'm going to navigate over to my workspaces because I want to work within, there we go, within our demo account. Okay. And to create a story, it's going to be very similar to creating a Kahoot. I'm going to go over to that blue create button, but instead of choosing Kahoot, I'm going to jump down to story. And when I'm creating a story, I can think about the format that I want to use, whether it's going to be more news or information forward, part of a training. Maybe I'm sending this to ask my team a survey, or maybe I have a list of tasks that I need them to complete by end of week or end of month, or maybe it's something entirely different. We'll go with news. And I'm going to enter in a topic for my story so I can use our AI generator to help me build this. I know some of you created your Kahoot from scratch. You could still do that with story if you would like. However, I'd like to rely on our AI to save some time. Let's do new hire welcome. I haven't done this one before, so we'll see how this goes. Okay. After I typed in new hire welcome, I just pressed enter, and now my AI is generating a story for me. And I do like to think of this as just a rough draft. I never fully rely on our AI, take what it creates and then present it or share it out. I always go through it. Luckily with Kahoot, we're very flexible, so you can make as many changes as you need. It's just nice to have that starting point. If there are any documents that you need to upload, you can also upload a file here. As far as format, maybe you generate your Kahoot, you're looking at the format and you realize, I don't really think news is the best format. You can then change it if needed. You can also update the language. Right now I have it in English, but I could change it to Spanish, French, Portuguese. As you can see, we have many different options here. And then tone of voice for stories, you have a lot more options than you do with the Kahoot. You can do conversational, empathetic, formal, humorous, informative, inspirational, playful, or reflective. Let's do, since this is a new hire welcome, I want to inspire them. So we'll go with inspirational and then generate new. And now it's updating my story to match the tone of voice that I chose. And I'm going to save this. And now I have the building blocks for my story. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking the theme is pretty dark. I tend to like things to be a little bit brighter. So let's go ahead and change to one of our light themes. And if you're looking for the themes ever, if you click on this little artist palette, you'll be able to pop those themes back up if needed. We'll go with blue for today. And now that I have my story generated, I've got the theme set, I'm going to start looking through this and making some changes. If I need to change any of the text, I'm free to do so. If I need to, let's say, duplicate the text or delete it, I have the option to do so right here. If I need to change the format slightly, like the width, I can do that. Maybe I want to insert a quote or emoji. If I click on that little plus addition icon, I can add a quote. I can also add an emoji if needed. For the quote, you would just type in your text after you insert quote. If I want to enhance my content with AI and tailor it to my audience, I can change the tone of voice, content length. Let's extend language for just this box. When I'm working with these options outside of a block, it will only make changes to that block. So really nice way of being able to control a specific box and not impact your entire story. Okay. And as we see, I chose to extend this welcome. Here's our original and here's our enhanced version. Maybe I see this and I like a lot of it, but I'm looking at this block and it's feeling a little bit heavy. If I want to still use it, but have it a little bit more bite-sized, I can split my content. So I'm going to put my click here where I want to split. Oh, split, and then there we go. So I'm able to split my boxes out a little bit more if I feel like one is a little too content heavy. Again, just click on that split icon and then choose where you want to split your text. Let's look at our image here. I can add media details if needed. I can crop the image, delete the image. If it was a gallery, I can also delete the gallery. Maybe I want to add an additional image. We'll go with this one here. And now I've created an image gallery. So instead of just having one photo here, I'm able to have two. Let's see. Normally it'll let you scroll through. I'm not sure. My internet might be moving a little bit slow today. Much like me, in case hopefully my voice isn't too much to listen to right now. I'm a little bit stuffy. And then upload media. If you want to add your own media, you can also choose to upload media as well. So if you need company images throughout your story, you can do that. If I delete that first image, there we go. Now it's showing my second. But again, if you create a gallery, you should be able to scroll through it. Now let's talk about making changes to the story overall. If you want to make an overall change to the story, you can add additional story blocks. If you go to the left-hand side and click on the plus icon here, anything that you click on this left-hand side is going to impact your entire story. So that's why you're able to add additional blocks here. Let's see, maybe we want to add a welcome checklist and give our new hires just some basic tasks like log into your email, maybe check your email your manager, whatever those initial first tasks you want them to have, you can add them here. And I'm just gonna type in some gibberish for time. And then as they're completing it, they can check it off. If you wanted to add a poll, you can add a poll, classic, scale, or MPS scale. Again, these question types are talked about more in depth during the basic training, but you are able to choose from these 3 question types to add to your story. If you have access to story reporting, you'll be able to see the results from your polls as well as your checklists. And then, of course, you can add additional images, video, audio, embed other Kahoots, or use our AI suggestion, or even upload and convert a PDF file into your story. If you need to move any blocks around, you can also do that as well. So if you did add this checklist, but you want it to be a little bit higher, feel free to move those blocks around. Now, changing the overall story, if I click on our magic wand here, again, if it's by the box, it's going to just change that box. If it's over to the left, it's going to impact the entire story. So you can change the tone of voice for the entire story, content length, if you want to extend it or even shorten it, and then language as well. When you choose to enhance a story, it's going to generate the new story for your viewing. And you can look between the advanced and the original to decide if you want to accept the changes or dismiss. I'm going to go ahead and save this story. And then jump over to the library. I'm going to navigate from Kahoots to stories. And I can see my new hire welcome. I'm going to click in. And from here, I can view the story again. I can choose to make edits. I can start a live presentation for the story. Stories are a great alternative to a presentation or a typical presentation with slides. It makes it really visually appealing and nice to look at. If you had a gallery here with more than one image, you could click through the different images. Again, I deleted that first image, so it's just one here for right now. And then end presentation. If you want to share it out, you can assign your story. You can set a deadline, choose who has visibility, whether it's everyone or just certain members of your team. Have that player identifier. Again, if you're going to be using reports, make sure you have this enabled so you can see who said what or who answered in what way. And then mark checklist items as done to complete assignment. If you enable this, they won't be able to complete the story without completing the checklist items. So great way of just having that accountability. And you can assign using username, group name, or even email. You can download a QR code or copy a link. And then you also have some different like social options. If you have assigned this story to someone, you can view that here as well. And that was our story. We're going to jump back into our Kahoot. So if you did have that window minimized, please go ahead and open that back up. Again, I do have questions sprinkled throughout. If you accidentally exited out of our Kahoot and need to rejoin, please feel free to use that Kahoot and PIN number down below. All right, let's talk about K courses. You can think of these as a threaded learning experience, whereas our story, again, is supposed to be short and sweet. Courses are going to take a little bit more time, or a lot of bit more time. Each course is made up of modules, and every module includes a mix of engaging activities, such as Kahoots, stories, documents, or videos. One of the most popular use cases is new employee onboarding, because courses are a great way to break down larger chunks of information into smaller bite-sized pieces. You might start a module with a story, drop in a helpful document or YouTube video, and then wrap things up with a short assessment using a Kahoot. Once the participant completes the module, they'll be able to keep moving forward to the next ones. In addition to new employee onboarding, courses are great for ongoing internal trainings. And then outside of trainings, they can also be used to gather feedback on a proposal or project by breaking it into sections, modules, and incorporating opinion-based Kahoots throughout. And while assigning courses is popular as a popular engagement case, they're also really useful for live sessions. If you have a half day or full day training or even a company kickoff, you can keep all of your presentations and Kahoots organized in one place. And then the added bonus is that as you progress through the different modules, it helps provide like a natural break time or transition to the next speaker. Another example, my manager has used courses to share updates where the first module was live, and then the second module was to be completed on our own time later on in the week. It was nice because it was easy to reference the material that our manager had shared out during the meeting while also reinforcing the update. So again, while courses are great for onboarding, they're also a flexible format that can be used live or self-paced. They let learners pause, absorb, and pace out the information, keeping the experience interactive and impactful every step of the way. Okay, diving back in, and then the next time we come in, I promise I do have some questions for you. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to our tab where we're working within the platform so you can just watch me through Zoom. I'll give everybody a second to adjust. And I'm going to go to the home page. Just like creating a Kahoot, creating a story, you're going to go to that blue create button in the upper right hand corner and choose course for courses. Now this is a little bit different. With our story in our Kahoot, the first thing that you noticed was that we had AI options pop up to help us create a draft. Courses are a little bit different because it is built with modules containing stories, Kahoots, documents, and videos. So not going to see those AI options right away unless you're diving into stories and Kahoots. You will see the creator guide here though, and this has the requirements for your course, such as a title and one activity. Very important for a course to have a title and activity. And then we also have some recommendations as well. I'm going to click add title, and then let's do just do advanced training test, keep it short and sweet. And if I go to this checklist icon in the upper right-hand corner, I can see that creator guide again. So I can see what's still required and what's recommended. I need to add at least one activity. So to add an activity, I'm going to choose either story, Kahoot, video, or document. Let's say I want to start with a quick welcome story for this course. And I want to add our new hire welcome. I select what I want to add, and then I click add one story. Now I have my story as part of my course. If I want to add an additional activity, I can click on the activity button in the upper right or upper left-hand corner, and then I can add another story, a Kahoot, video, or even a document. Let's do a Kahoot. And I can select and add one, or I can create one. Same thing with story. If you're going to add a course or sorry, a Kahoot or story and you realize you haven't created it yet, no problem at all. All you have to do is go to the create button that pops up in that window. And from here, you'll be able to create the Kahoot. And if you chose story, same thing with story. Let's just use our AI generator really quick. And I'm just going to select that topic that's there. I'm going to leave everything as is. And I'll just add a couple of slides for the sake of time. I'm going to save. And I'm going to just say that I'm done. Again, just creating really quick for the sake of showing you how to do so. If you want to learn more about creating that Kahoot, again, that's covered during our basic training. But now that I've saved it, I see that my Kahoot that I just created is now on the list. So I can select it and then add one Kahoot. And again, story, very similar. If it's not on your list, you can click that create button and create it on the spot. Okay. So I've got 2 activities in this first little bit. I'm going to go ahead and set this as a module. And I can either say module 1, I can call it welcome, whatever you want the title of that module to be. And then let's do like a getting started. If you realize that maybe an activity you put in module 1 should really go in module 2, you still have that flexibility to move things around. So again, Kahoot, we really prioritize flexibility, and we don't want anything to be too set in stone if it doesn't need to be yet. So if you need to move stuff around, you can. Let's go back to our creator list and add a description. The description describes your course, so it lets people know what they're about to be working on. I always recommend adding this, even though it's not required. Again, it just helps people get into the right mindset before they start your course. If you need to change the language, you can also do that here. For design, you can add your own cover images, and then you can also change the theme here as well. If there are any resources you want to add to your course, you can either add it as a document in one of the modules, or you can add resources here for people to view. Visibility, whether or not you want it to be available to everyone in the organization or unlisted, as long as they have a direct link. And then if you do have the option with your plan for course certificate, this is where you can enable course certificates, set up your criteria, participants who complete the course, or based on a accuracy minimum. You can add the name for the authority of the certificate, position, upload a signature if you'd like, and then you can also change the logo to match your company logo rather than having just the Kahoot. And of course, change color as well. And while I did get to that by clicking on add description first, and then went down this list, all of this is, listed under the setting. So if you click on that setting icon, you'll see the same thing. Okay. And while I recommend, of course, having more activities in your course for today in the sake of time, I am going to save this as it is now and show how you can share your course. So you can host it live. It'll prompt your settings. Again, best practice is to keep that player identifier enabled. And then you can start your live session and move through your different activities. I'm going to cancel. Let's see, let me go to library courses. There it is. Okay. And then the other nice thing that I like about this is if you need to look at your course quickly just to check over it before you host live or assign it, you can see all of the modules and activities and click through them. So right now we're looking at that story, and I can just view it without having to be completely in it. And then same with that Kahoot that I made, I can look at all of the questions and see the image associated with them. So I can just make sure that that is the way that I want it. If I want to assign the course, I can go to that library list and then click assign. And then from here, I can update the deadline. I can change the visibility, change that player identifier, and then of course, like all of my other options here. I can choose to turn off the question timer if I want to give people a little bit more of a relaxed setting for completing. And then if I do have, if I want to send course completion emails, I can do that. So maybe I'm assigning it to a large group, but I want that group to be able to notify their manager that they completed the course. If I send that email, that's something that they can use to share. Clicking continue, I can assign by email. I can upload a CSV if I have a longer list. I can share the URL link. And then of course, I've got that QR download option as well. So a lot of different ways to get that course out to people. Okay, jumping back into our Kahoot, and we do have some questions here, so I'll give everybody a moment or two to get back into our interactive presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Andy is here and she's happy to answer any questions you have. I also noticed that she's dropping in some helpful links. So if you don't have any questions, I do recommend checking out those links. Okay, which type of activity is better for a micro learning experience? Story. Yeah, this one's kind of tricky because I know we just talked about course, so it's fresh on our brains. But stories are better for those micro learning experiences, should take just 2 to 5 minutes, whereas a course is that threaded experience full of different activities and modules. And then which type of activity allows you to create modules? And if you're not sure, oh, we were really quick with this one. I did do an image reveal. I don't know if you caught that because it was so quick, but there is an image reveal there. And then true or false for double points, and we'll view our podium after this one. A course can be used in person or asynchronously. True. Yep. All of our Kahoot activities are designed so that they can be used in person or asynchronously. All right, it looks like our incredible salamander is in the lead, followed by Quick Dragon. I see we have 2 folks that joined but haven't answered a question yet. So if you accidentally got logged out or closed out of the Kahoot, don't forget you can rejoin with that PIN number at the bottom. All right, let's talk about groups in Kahoot. Groups are a simple yet powerful way to share and collaborate. You can think of them as a flexible space to organize and share Kahoots with exactly the right people, whether or not they're part of your team workspace. As a reminder, we covered the personal workspace and team workspace during the basic training. It's really important to be aware of which workspace you are working in when creating a Kahoot activity or looking for a Kahoot activity. And if you are part of a team space, that's where all of your paid features are located. So definitely want to make sure you're taking advantage of those. You can create a group to curate a collection of Kahoots, making it easy for others to access and engage with. Each group provides a dedicated space where leaders can assign Kahoots and members can join the conversation by liking and commenting on the content. We're managing groups. The number of groups you can create and the number of members you can invite does depend on your subscription plan. As an admin, you're completely in control. You can disable content sharing, remove Kahoots from the group, and ensure that the space stays relevant. You might be wondering what happens if you need someone in the group that's not part of your team space. Maybe they're in a different department or they don't have a license with your team space yet. That's not a problem. As long as they have a personal account, they can join your group. However, if they are not part of the team space, they will only be able to access features that are available to them in their personal, which is typically their free account. So if they need access to all of the same features as the team space, I do recommend adding a license to make them part of your team space, because if you build a Kahoot, share it with the group, and they don't have access to some of the question types, they won't be able to see the entire Kahoot. So not a perfect workaround for licenses, but you do have that option of adding people in, which can at least help them be part of the conversation. Let's talk about some use cases. Groups are great for new employee onboarding, give new hires access to essential Kahoots in one place. making it easy for them to learn, ask questions, and collaborate. For project teams, you can share Kahoots with colleagues for feedback and insights as you prepare for a presentation or initiative. And then training programs, trainers can assign Kahoots for participants to participate in, or Kahoots for people to host. And taking a closer look at sharing versus assigning, at Kahoot, we prioritize flexibility. So when you're working in groups, you have the option to either assign or share activities, whichever works best for your needs. Assigning Kahoots, if you assign a Kahoot activity, your group members will have the option to complete the activity themselves, which again makes groups great for organized activities like new employee onboarding or internal trainings. You can assign Kahoots on a daily or weekly basis, creating a structured experience. This gives new hires a safe space to ask questions, share ideas, and learn from others' perspectives. Switching gears to sharing activities allow group members to host the activity, and this is also a good way to collect feedback. For example, after an initial meeting, you can share project materials in the group, collect input through comments, and then refine ideas or even work with group members on a Kahoot before it's finalized and shared company-wide. It's a simple and interactive way to keep everyone aligned and engaged. Another example is to create a group for managers or other team leaders, whether in the same department or across different ones. Share training updates or Kahoot activities like Kahoot stories and courses that you'd like them to present to their teams. This makes it easy for them to find the exact activity needed for their next team meeting or activity needed that needs to be shared out. So in short, groups make it easy to share and collaborate and engage while giving you additional control over the experience. If you assign activities, group members can participate in them. And if you share activities, group members can view or host them. So let's dive back into the platform and create a quick group together. Okay, I'm going to navigate to group. And I am back on my Zoom screen, so make sure you're watching me through Zoom at this point. I'm going to navigate over to groups, and I'm going to click the create group button. This group create button in the upper right hand corner is for stories, courses, and Kahoots. You're going to need to navigate to first groups and then create group in order to build that group. Let's do September test. And now I have my group called September test. I can add members right away. I can create my first welcome post, share, or assign an activity. I, rule of thumb, like to share a quick message first before I invite people. That way I don't forget and people join my group and they're like, what in the world is this group for? Why did you add me to this? So I usually do just like a quick welcome, and then I'll type out a little bit about what the group is about and my purpose for creating it. I'll just do welcome for now and click post. Next, I like to add my group members by clicking that add group member button. When you're creating a group within a team space, you will see all of the members of that team space listed. As you can see for this demo account, it's just me and one colleague, so not quite a lot there. But if I wanted to select her to add her, I could. I can also copy this link for the group and share it out if I need to add some people that aren't part of my team space. And then I can invite via email as well. I will save her an email though and not add her to this demo. Once a member is part of a group, they can like and leave their own posts, so comments in the group. I'll show you how to disable that though, if that's not an option that you want to have. For sharing assignments, if I click share here, I can share a Kahoot, story, course, or even a folder if I need to. Folders live in your library. So if you need to share an entire folder worth of material, you can do that. Again, sharing means people can view or host the Kahoot, story, or course. If I want to assign, I can assign a Kahoot story or course. You can't assign a whole folder. You'd have to assign the individual activities in there. But I could assign a Kahoot story or course, and that means people in the group need to actually complete it themselves and go through it and answer all my questions. So very simple. Again, just creates a nice like thread for communication and activities. If I navigate over to group settings, this icon, not quite in the upper right-hand corner, but towards the right upper hand corner, I can go to my group settings and I can edit the name and description of the group. I can choose how I want to be notified things as the owner of this group. If I want to know when a member leaves, I can enable that. I can either allow members to invite new people or disable it. And then I can also allow members to see who else is in the group or make that so that they can't see who else is in the group. I can allow members to share content, or I can disable that if I want more control over what's being shared. And then external members can share content. So if you do have to invite people that aren't part of your team space, you can still allow them to share things or disable. And then members can create assignments. If I want them to share assignments, I can let them, or I can have that disabled. So again, you do have a good level of control as to what's being put into your group. As your group builds and you add more activities or share more activities, if you need to search things in an easier way, you can go to the tabs here and either look for activities shared or assignments. So as there's more in here, you're not scrolling through everything in the group. And that is our group. If you need to view members, you can view members. And if you need to add more members, that add member button is here. So if you need to add someone later on, no worries. In addition to having your recent groups and creating your own group, you can look at owned groups that you've created. So if I navigate to groups and then owned, I can see all of the groups that I have personally created. I can also see groups that I have joined. And I can also see if there are any other groups in my organization that I may want to join. This can be useful for new hires because they can see what's in the organization and join what is relevant to them. And that is our groups. Pretty quick. But I love it. I think it is a great tool for collaboration. Okay, jumping back into our interactive presentation. I know we've covered a lot already, how to build stories, courses, and how to use groups to boost collaboration and keep things organized. And then if you have attended the basic training already, you've also learned about creating and hosting Kahoots recently. So I know your brain is full of Kahoot information right now. But let's jump into our final topic for today and talk about what comes next after all of that is said and done, which is reports. Reports are a game changer. They give you a powerful way to see how your Kahoot activities are performing and how your audience is engaging. Once you've logged into your account, just head over to the reports section and click on one of your sessions. This is where you can find everything from a quick summary of overall performance, how individual players performed, a deeper understanding of how different questions performed, and of course, any feedback you might have collected at the very end. You'll also see who needs help, which is answered less than 35% correctly, and who didn't finish. Again, the best way to make sure you're looking at the correct person and you know how to reach out to is to have that player identifier enabled. So let's zoom in on one of my favorite features in the summary, which is difficult questions. If you're looking to reinforce key concepts or make sure your team really retains the most important information, this is a go-to. With just a click, you can generate a new Kahoot that focuses only on the most challenging questions from your original session, which is perfect for quick, targeted review. It helps learners zero in on the areas that need the most improvement without having to go through the entire Kahoot again. For this option to appear, your report needs to have at least 3 difficult questions, which Kahoot automatically flags when fewer than 35% of participants get them right. It's a simple but impactful way to boost learning, improve retention of information, and keep everyone moving forward with confidence. Again, this won't pop up if it doesn't meet that 3-question requirement. So if you are looking at Kahoot, at a report for a Kahoot, and you're like, where's my difficult questions? I want to generate something and it's not there. Well, good news is that means you didn't have 3 that met the requirement. But if you do, then you'll see that option available. All right, and let's talk about combining reports because sometimes looking at just one Kahoot isn't quite enough. Maybe you're running the same Kahoot across multiple sessions, or you want to track an average score across several different activities. In those cases, you can combine reports to get a single view of how things went overall. One important thing to note here, again, make sure player identifier is turned on before you host or assign your Kahoots. You might hear me say that in your dreams later tonight. Make sure that player identifier is enabled. This makes it easy to track the same participants and even distinguish different participants across sessions so your combined reports are accurate. As a reminder, the player identifier collects email addresses. Without it, you're relying on nicknames, and this could lead to inaccurate data if the same person uses different names each time they play, or different people from different sessions happen to use the same nickname. That can get messy and skew your results depending on how you're wanting to look at it. So again, player identifier is key. When you combine reports, you'll get a new landing page just for that combined report. It includes a fresh podium, session summary, and a breakdown of the toughest questions, just like a single session report, but across all sessions. Now, if you want to take engagement to the next level, you can also use combined reports to create a Kahoot tournament. This is where things can get fun. For the tournament, you can combine multiple reports to create a combined leaderboard and podium. It's a great way to keep learners motivated over time and perfect for courses, large trainings, or even just like a friendly company-wide competition. Before we dive into the platform, I briefly want to highlight case story reports as they provide insights into both story engagement and participant progress. With these reports, you can track engagement by analyzing story blocks, review learner performance with both high-level and detailed views, and gather insights from polls and checklists to measure understanding and participation. By leveraging these insights, you can refine your approach, boost engagement, and drive better learning outcomes. It's also nice if you turn your agenda before a meeting into a story that includes a checklist or poll to see maybe what your audience already knows, or maybe get some insight for them as to what would be the most beneficial for them to hear more about before you actually start your meeting or presentation. It's a simple way to engage people up front and then just, again, tailor your talking points for maximum impact. It's important to note, though, that story reporting is not available on all plans. So if it is something you're interested in and don't have, please feel free to get in touch with our team to learn more about your options there. Okay, diving in, and I know we're close to time. I'm going to speed through this, do my best to wrap up in the next 5 minutes, but quick warning, might go a minute or two over just to do our wrap up at the very end, but I will try to move quickly. Oh no, spinning wheel of doom. Okay, reports. So I'm going to navigate over to reports. And the first thing I want to point out is that it can be overwhelming when you're looking at every single report that you've ever created or has been created based on the number of activities you've used. So you can do some filtering here. You can sort by date, you can sort by name, or even number of players if that's something you want to look at. And then you also have these filter options up here. So you can look at just your live classic mode Kahoots, live game mode Kahoots, assigned Kahoots, courses, Kahoots with player identifier, which is hopefully all of them. But just in case it's not, you can look specifically at those. And then if you have any combined reports, you can see them here. And then of course, if story reporting is an option for you, you can sort for those as well, or filter for those. If you need a search, you can also search. Let's go ahead and dive into one. Bum, bum, bum. I'm going to open this report. Okay. I won't be able to show you the participants tab only because it does have an email address in there that I don't want to put on blast. But under the player participant tab, you'll see the nickname of the player identifier, so that email address, their rank compared to the group, their percentage score, any unanswered questions they might have had, and then of course their final score. But looking here, first we're going to see our summary, where you can get a quick glance at how the Kahoot performed. You can see number of participants that you had, number of questions, and the average time to complete the Kahoot. You can also have participants play again. And then if you had any difficult questions, or if you had at least 3, it looks like this one only had 1. If you had 3, you could create a new Kahoot with just those difficult questions here. If anybody needed help, if they answered less than 35% correctly, you'll see a list of those names here. And then if anyone didn't finish, you can see that as well. So really making sure you're keeping people accountable. If you want to view the podium or share the podium, maybe it's like a follow-up email, you can also view and share the podium. Going over to questions, again, I'm going to skip participants. You can see the questions that were asked and how they performed overall. You can also see the type of question that you used, which I think is nice. Like if you notice you used one type a lot, maybe next time try to add a little more variety. If you collected any feedback at the end of the Kahoot, that will be shared here. And that feedback option pops up when you're done presenting your presentation. Quick tip, if you are hosting the same Kahoot more than once, maybe across several different sessions or different teams, I do recommend editing the report title. It's going to be the same as the Kahoot every time. So if you are reusing it, I would add something like group 1, like I already did here, maybe the date that you hosted the Kahoot, something to help distinguish it so you know which group participated in that Kahoot that's being reused. If you go to report options, you can download the report to share out if needed. You can print, you can look at other reports for that same Kahoot and combine. So again, that's why I recommend making sure that you change the name under reports after you've hosted the Kahoot. It will just use that Kahoot title every time. So having that distinction also helps make it easier to know which ones you want to combine. And if you want to combine, you can click combine and then track players based on their player identifier. Again, nickname isn't always the most reliable, so you want that player identifier. And then you can create your title, whatever you want it to be. And success, it's combined. So I would just go back to all my reports, go to my combined, and then I will find it. Where did I put it? Oh, it might have been that first one. I might not have fixed the name completely. But yeah, very, very easy. When you combine something, you will get a brand new podium, brand new everything. And that is our reports. Pretty quick. If you have any questions, I am going to hang out for a couple more minutes to answer any questions that you might have. So quick wrap up for what's next. I do encourage you all to create your first case story or K-course. Check out the reports tab, play around with the features there, especially after you've hosted a few Kahoots. And then create a group and start collaborating. If you're part of a team space, maybe just create your first group, familiarizing with Kahoot so you can ask each other questions there and help each other out if there are any features that maybe your team is checking out that you want more insight on. Okay, and then scale question, same one as before. How confident do you feel navigating the platform when it comes to stories, courses, groups, and reports? And we had 1 answer submitted. Last time we had a few more, so hopefully that doesn't skew the average too much. Okay, We were at a 3 and now we're at a 5. So I will take that as a win for today. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for participating in the advanced live training. If we were to show the podium, we could do so here, but I do want to show you that get feedback feature first for those that have to jump. So this is what that would look like. If they're looking at their screen or device, they'll be prompted to leave some feedback on the session. And then showing off our podium. Let's see who our number 1 is. Incredible salamander. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. Again, I will hang out for a couple more minutes in case anybody has any questions. Happy to answer them live on this call. I'll stay on for about 2 more minutes. Let's see our chat. And also give you the chance to save some of the links that Andy shared out today. I see she shared a link for combining reports. So if that Kahoot tournament or combining reports was of interest to you, definitely recommend clicking and bookmarking that one. And I also see a link for groups as well. Okay, well, it looks like our participants have dropped and I'm not seeing any questions come through. So I'm gonna hop, if there happens to be someone on still, thank you so much for joining today's session and I hope you have a great rest of your week.